Switzerland isn't a place that you usually associate the words grizzly or macabre with. However, after today's story, you will. Switzerland is more of a place of unimaginable beauty, with Alps and rolling hills and breathtaking architecture. And within the landlocked country is a city named Basel. Basel, Switzerland is a picturesque city that borders France and Germany. It's known for art. It's famous for its museums, including the Kunstmuseum, and that's actually the first collection of art that was accessible to the public. Right outside of that is Binningen. It's a very upscale little community there in that area. And on the night of February 13th, Kristina Joksimovic's father would find her head in a bin bag, all while his grandchildren played in the next room. You're going to need to prepare yourself for today's story, Sofa Squad, because this one's a doozy. Hello, Sofa Squad. Welcome back to the sofa. My name's Paul. The sofa's behind me, and you'll notice something's a little bit different today. We have our little cage here with our little blankies and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you watch the live chat, or if you've seen my post, you'll know we do have two new additions here to the Sofa Squad. Their names, their official names are Beau William and Luke Connor. Beau and Luke to continue the Rosco P. Coltrane theme of the TV show Dukes of Hazzard. And William and Connor derive from my two favorite authors, Tennessee Williams and Flannery O'Connor. So a Sofa Squad member actually suggested the Beau and Luke after I named them William and Connor, and I saw that and I said, why didn't I think about this? I can't believe this. And it fits so perfectly, and I'd actually had a couple of days to look at their personalities, and I was like, oh, please, completely Beau and Luke, right? So we just changed the names around a little bit. So their formal names are Beau William, Luke Connor, but Beau and Luke. Now, Beau and Luke are in their little backpack over here off to the sofa, not this sofa. So they actually fell asleep right before I started filming because I was gonna hold them. This is the first time I've filmed with them, and they're at that stage right now. They're 8 weeks as of today. I'm sorry, as of last Saturday. And of course, they just, if they're not with me, they scream and they cry and, you know, do all the puppy stuff or whatever. So I was like, we're just gonna play it by ear. So they might make an appearance for this video, they might not, because I don't want to wake them up, because today is their first vet visit. So I'm wanting them to get rested up and all that kind of stuff. So that being said, that's why this is back here, and just know that going forward. Now, like I said, today's video is going to be a rough one, okay? The story is really bad, and it's really sad, and it's really tragic. So just know that if this isn't the kind of video for you, we're not going to like deep dive into the grotesque things that today's victim went through, but it is part of the story that we will be going over. So just understand that going forward. So on that note, let's go ahead and continue on with today's story. So back to Switzerland, back to that town, back to the tale of this tragedy. Now, aside from the country's beauty in both landscape, art, culture, it's also known for producing beautiful people. Kristina Joksimovic was just that. In fact, she was actually Miss Northwest Switzerland, and in 2007 made it all the way to being a finalist for Miss Switzerland. But she wasn't just some pretty face. Kristina was way more than that. She was incredibly smart and talented and knew how to parlay her beauty into a long-lasting business. She would end up opening her own business. She would be a catwalk coach. She even mentored model Dominique Rinderknecht for the Miss Universe pageant in 2013. Now, all the while that she was doing her consulting agency, helping other aspiring models, she was still working full-time in IT recruitment. She wasn't just doing that. She also had other layers to her, more life. She was more than just a pretty face and just a businesswoman. She was a daughter, she was a wife, and she even had two beautiful daughters herself. Now, Krista Ragazzi, she was another former Miss Switzerland, and she had this to say about Kristina. She was quoted as saying, "I'm thinking of her two daughters. She was such a beautiful and kind-hearted woman." And another friend of hers was quoted as saying, "To me, they seemed like the perfect family." But here's the thing, oftentimes behind the Instagram post, behind the Facebook post, behind all of the superficial things that we have as people, as families, as society, things aren't always what they seem. Her world would come to a tragic end on February 13th, 2024. But like I said, it wasn't by accident. She would lose her life, her daughters would lose their mother, and none other by the hands of their father, and for Kristina, her husband, who so far is only being named Thomas. So let's talk about Kristina and Thomas for a moment. So the couple married back in 2017. They lived in a very spacious, semi-attached house. And again, this was in that affluent little district that we talked about just outside of Basel. They resided with their 2 daughters and Kristina's mother. A month before her death, Kristina had shared photos on her Instagram account. And like I said, they were a happy, beautiful couple. Nobody would ever guess. So then what went wrong? What happened? The autopsy report is one place that we can start with to get some facts. Because oftentimes, as we see in these stories, the MO gets very blurry behind what's real, what's not, what's fact, and what's not. So let's talk about that for a second. So far we know that she was strangled to death, but that wasn't the only atrocity done to her. There were a lot, actually. Thomas would allegedly try and hide the details of the crime through the use of household items that were never intended for the grisly uses that he put them to. He removed her head using a jigsaw, knife, even garden shears in their laundry room. But that wasn't all he would do. He would do one more absolutely atrocious thing. He then would take her womb from her torso. Now, according to the court records, and I'm going to quote Daily Mail here on this deliberate mutilation of ritualized degradation of the body is believed to indicate that Thomas has a mental disorder. And on that one, I'm like, yeah, at the very least, okay? Her remains would then be chopped with a hand blender, pureed, and dissolved in a chemical solution. This was reported by the local outlet Blick. Now, to again quote Daily Mail and the court records again, his behavior on the day of Kristina's killing indicates that Thomas is extremely violent, particularly towards his respective life partners, sometimes with sadistic sociopathic traits. Again, I'm like, yeah, okay, this guy is off the chain, in other words. But there were signs that something terrible took place before the final acts. A struggle, a fight, I mean, who knows right now? But her hair showed signs of being pulled out, and there's blunt force trauma and bruising to various parts of her body. Now keep in mind, this man, he was no doctor, okay? This was very raw, this was very grisly, it was very rough what he did to her. And you might be asking, how could he do this? What did he do? How did he take his mind off of this? The man was watching YouTube videos while he did this. So then why in the world would this man do this? What would make him tick? What would make him trigger? Okay, we don't know, right? But we are going to circle back to Thomas to try and find some of those answers. Now, Thomas's first excuse was the innocent bystander excuse, right? He comes in, he finds her dead, and he panicked. I guess the only logical thing to do if you find a deceased loved one is to absolutely desecrate their body in every way possible. But then I guess he had a change of heart or mind or something, because how would that explain him hiding her phone in a delivery truck? And then why wouldn't he let investigators look at his own phone when they asked him to? But then, as we often see, his story changed. It evolved. Thomas would go with the old tried and true self-defense that we see so often. Thomas said that he was forced to use a knife on her to take her life after she attacked him. Okay, so I guess that was his only choice left. Now, of course, this doesn't account for all the insane stuff that took place after that, but he said that they had this positive conversation, and out of the blue, just like that, she just, attacked him. And so then we ended that with pureed blenders and crazy next level stuff. It doesn't make sense, Thomas. But here's the thing, as you probably have already guessed at this, she wasn't the first person to suffer at Thomas's hands. Oh no. There were women before her. A former lover spoke to court. She told the court that Thomas was very violent against her all the way up until April of 2016. This was just a wee bit more than a year before Kristina and Thomas would marry. She would say that fits of rage were absolutely normal for this man. She said that even one time when they went to go visit her parents, he tried throwing her out of the car. He even ran over her foot, grabbing her by the neck, slamming on the brakes in the car so hard she slammed her head on the dashboard, losing control during arguments. This is how Thomas rolled. She said that she learned that these problems were present in his previous relationships as well. Now, July 14th, 2023, police were called to Thomas and Kristina's home. Reports, witnesses, things of this nature, they would show that there were marks on her. Now, here's another thing that you're probably not going to be that surprised at. Yes, there are many layers to Mr. Thomas. One of them being, guess what? He comes from a very wealthy, well-connected family. Shocker. I know. His father is a well-known lawyer from Bern. Now, back in 2022, Thomas launched a consulting firm. This seems to be when things went down south. And a source that's close to Kristina said that this is when the relationship crumbled. This is when Thomas's attitude changed. And apparently this was so extreme that she wanted to leave him, but she was afraid to. She was stuck. Now, this cycle and this fear of like losing his family, losing her, all these things, it apparently sent him into some form of a downward spiral. Now, even when a lower court presented findings, and I'm going to go ahead and quote Daily Mail again on their findings from the court records, said that Thomas was obviously stuck in a completely unrealistic idea of living again in the near future with his daughters, whose mother he admittedly killed and dismembered at his previous place of residence. The Basel court stated that there are concrete indications of a mental illness or a significant psychopathological personality disorder in Thomas's case, paired with a high level of criminal energy, lack of empathy, and cold-bloodedness after killing his wife. Now, Thomas has unsuccessfully bid the court to be released pending trial. Thank God, right? He doesn't need to go anywhere. So only time will tell what exactly will happen with Thomas, with justice in this case. We'll continue following it here at the Sofa Squad, and now I want to take a few minutes just to talk about my own thoughts and feelings on it and whatnot. As I always like to say in this, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not any of that fancy credentialed stuff. I'm just a guy with a sofa, some sass, and some personality disorders. Okay, let's just be honest, okay? But here's the thing. Reading this case, and I'm not trying to reduce this by saying, oh, we see this all the time. They're each individual. Each of these victims matter. Each of these victims have a family, had families, the whole 9 yards, right? It's very interesting to see other countries and how the judicial system works. Something like this is absolutely over the top that I feel like would be worthy of the ultimate sentence here in the States, right? So we'll have to see over there. Oftentimes, some countries are more about rehabilitation. I know that here in America, they say they are, but let's be honest, it's more about punishment here. And some things, there's no rehabilitating it from, right? Okay, this seems to be an absolute pattern with him. I'm sure that he does have these things going on that they're citing, right? I mean, how logical can a person be in a sound mind that is going to do something this grotesque to the mother of their children, right? The person who, took his hand in marriage. Now, the whole thing about him being connected and this and the other, this just seems like and I don't even want to say standard, but just, almost like a standard run-of-the-mill family annihilator. Luckily, the children are alive, right? Now, if you remember from the beginning of the video, her father is the one that found her head. The kids are playing in the next room, okay? So, this is the level of insanity that's going on with this. Whatever was taking place, it just seems like one of these power struggles of, if I can't have you, nobody will, right? Kind of a thing. Now, again, I don't know. This hasn't gone to court. We might not ever get a true fingerprint on the case like we do oftentimes with cases here in America because of the transparency and things of that nature, but we will follow as best we can. I absolutely just cannot believe the fact that her father found her remains, that the children, the daughters, now they're without a mother, her own mother, the whole 9 yards, all the victims that are going to be impacted in this. Obviously her, she sounded like not just a beautiful human being, but a beautiful person inside and out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This is the thing that gets me with these cases, is I'm just like, these kids, when they're old enough, not only is it dad took mom's life, but in this manner. This is something that I mean, think of the cases that come to mind over here. We're talking Jeffrey Dahmer. We're talking, you know, Shimoni or whatever her name was, that one woman, you know, I'm talking about. All these cases over here that are just this next level, and this is right up there with them. You know, imagine being the father, okay? It's shame when you outlive your children, number one, and you see that in general, even if it's natural causes. Imagine going and finding your daughter's head in a bin and your grandchildren are next door, and you're sitting here having to get, your mind couldn't compute that. You would never, it gives me goosebumps, you would never get that image out of your mind. That will be seared in that man's memory the rest of his life. His daughter, his baby girl at one point that grew up into this wonderful woman, that is going to be seared in his mind. That's the kind of thing that crimes like this do to other people, to the survivors, to the loved ones. My heart goes out to them. I hope that justice is served in the fullest capacity, obviously, right? So we're going to keep our eyes on this case. This was sent to me by several people, so I wanted to just go over it, kind of gather up what I knew at this point in time, and then we'll keep moving on. So that's it. So let me know what you think down in the comment section. I do appreciate if you're still watching. And in fact, if you could just drop some little sofas off in that comment section. For myself, Rosco in spirit, and Bo and Luke, who, let's just be honest, have been very good puppies. They have sat over here and slept this whole time, so they will be nice and ready to go for their vet appointment. But drop the, I guess we're gonna have to get a sectional for everybody that's involved now sitting in the comment section. But you know, drop sofas off for a sectional, and until all this little whole gang over here meanders our way down to the comment section to hang out with you, we'll see you soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.